Welcome to the digital airways of Storyophonic. We're proud to introduce you to the members of a very special community. Those in the spotlight and behind the scenes, the people and the personalities who make the music happen. I'm Dan Kimpel. We're proud to continue with our mission to entertain and inform you as we reveal tips and tales from deep inside the music industry. With resonant acoustics, layered vocals, and experimental electronics, composer, multi-instrumentalist, and performer Carla Patullo creates transformative music. In addition to her film scores, she's also placed over 100 songs in features and television shows. And as an artist, her 2024 Grammy-winning album, titled So She Howls, follows a near-death experience from which she emerged with a renewed sense of adventure and gratitude. She's dedicated to writing music that supports and advances inclusion for women, immigrants, and the LGBTQ+ community. Carla Patullo is our guest on Storyophonic. Carla Patullo, so glad to have you with us here today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here on your show.
We share a lot of people in our community that we've worked with and we've interviewed for the show. Star Parodi, Laura Cartman, Doreen Ringer-Ross, and Lily Hayden have all been here as guests with us.
I love those people so much. I feel so lucky to have met them coming here to LA. I've been here for about 10 years, but each of those women have been just so warm and welcoming, and I've learned a lot from each of them. So lucky me. Yeah.
You've spoken of the community of creative people here in Los Angeles, and pretty unsurpassable, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's really unbelievable, and especially like last year, it was like I put out my solo album. So as an artist doing that, I met even more people outside of the film and TV world, and I just was like really just surprised in a way, like being that there were so many people in this community that, really take the time to listen. And I feel like there's just so many great relationships have blossomed.
Yeah, supportive people too. Doreen Ringer-Ross is an incredible advocate for composers.
Absolutely. I mean, I've did the BMI Composing Lab years ago, and then the Sundance Lab, and those were all fostered by Doreen, and she, and BMI, it was really a big part of my growth as a composer. I love to have lunch with her and just chat, and she's just got so much, so many amazing stories to share.
I see you have an upcoming show. By the time we listen to this here, we have this on air. It might be a past show, but I see you're doing some performing coming up at the Village Studios, right?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'm doing a show with Radhika Vicaria. She's a fantastic singer. Actually, a year ago, I caught her at the Village. I was in the audience. And I'm just so stoked to be actually performing with her. And the Village is such a wonderful space, just so many legends, so many amazing musicians and albums have been a part of that.
I spoke in the intro, you have a background as a performer. You continue to be a performer. The worlds are so different in many ways. Obviously, when you're a composer, you're telling a story, but you're telling a visual story. When you're an artist, you're kind of telling maybe more your story. I mean, how do you balance those two worlds, or how are they different, and how do they influence each other? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because, it's something I've been navigating for a while. I would say there's been periods of time where I've just been completely in the film world. And then, I've kind of come back out as an artist. And, I feel as an artist, I've been drawn to that space out of this basic necessity or this something in my life or something that I really need to, let out. It's kind of this fundamental place for me to express my emotions. And so it's interesting, though, but I think when I'm in the film scoring world, I'm just like really experimenting a lot with different sounds, and every project there's a vision already. So I go and I research, what I'm doing, and I open up my mind to different styles of music, and I try to like bring that into my, solo work as well. So like the cinematic soundscape has been something that, 10 years ago, I really started to get into, and I just love it. And now it's become part of my artist sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was thinking about it on the way over here. There are a number of composers that I have spoken to and interviewed who had those similar background, who have had that experience of being the artist thing and going in and out of it at will, or as time or projects determine sometimes. And I think the timelines would be very different in creating.
Oh, yeah.
Can you speak to that for a second?
Yeah. It's interesting because I actually think my film scoring intense deadlines, usually they're very quick turnaround, has actually got me to be a little bit more disciplined with myself, with my solo work. I found that, I remember, before I got into film scoring, when I would work on an album, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to, do this in a few years, and I would spend years working on an album. And, and it used to be this real pull about like getting it done. And now like I'm pretty like, when I come up to doing an album, like I'm working on a new one now, and I'm just like, okay, this is like going to be the phases. And, I know once I get to a certain phase, to go, once I'm like in that orchestrating arrangement mode, I'm like, okay, I know what that's like. That's like, with film scoring, I got my, studio, I know my engineers, I know my people, and that's, that. But sometimes you just need the space too, though, for your artist work to just evolve and just to let it like, come up with your story or figure out what you're telling, and saying.
I note that you studied songwriting at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and then you later on you returned to study film, TV, and video game scoring at their campus in Valencia, Spain. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Well, I will say, when I told my parents back in the day that I was majoring in songwriting, they were very nervous. But I loved writing songs. I mean, for me, music, it wasn't really, I sing and I play instruments, but it was always about writing, and so I studied songwriting and ended up getting my songs published and placing them on TV shows. And that to me was kind of a bridge into this, visual music and visual world. And so one thing led to another. And it was at Berklee Valencia where I met Laura Cartman and Doreen Ringer Ross. And so it was really a great move to go there and study.
Cool.
Yeah.
So from
in Spain.
There you go. Yes. Great wine, great food. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Speaking of great wine, Austin, Texas. You were based at one point in Austin, Texas for a period of time with your band, White Widow, yes?
Yeah. Yes, I loved Austin. So my band White Widow, like it formed in New York, and then I headed out to Austin, and I just love the scene in Austin. It was just really great, and it was so affordable to live there. And because it was so cheap to live there at the time, I could really focus on my music. And so that was like a win-win there. And it was just such a great, vibe, big community of musicians.
We always think of songwriters. Austin is historic songwriters, great writers coming from there. So what an interesting place to be. Can you explain a form of music to me called clunk?
Clunk? I don't know.
My research brought me to this, that you have used that term. Like it's like a combination of classical music and punk. Do you remember saying that?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't, but I like it.
Clunk.
That's amazing. I love that. That's, I think, with White Widow, when I was in that band, our production was always a little bit, it was cleaner, but at the shows, I would just get on stage and scream. This was like the phase of my life I was in, I was just like, very angsty. And then I went on tour with Sandra Bernhard for a while. And when I got off tour, that's when I went to Valencia and started learning about cinematic music. So those two worlds just, collided.
Right. As the story goes, I believe Sandra saw you performing in a parking lot. Is that correct? And yeah.
Yeah. Well, she had to perform too in that parking lot. I mean, it was South by Southwest, so it was just like anything goes at South by. Everybody's playing all over the place, and yeah, we just hit it off, and we're actually working on a tune together now. So it's been it's another great mentor and person in my life that I met, that I got to, kind of see the world through her eyes, and what she kind of stands for and what she's done as a performer. So I feel really lucky to have had these women.
No, it's great. I was aware of her more as a comic, and I saw her on the television show Pose, and she performed a version of "Sometimes It Snows in April" by Prince, and I was like, whoa. Because it was there was a performance element that I just was not ready for.
Yeah.
She's a great performer,
She's an amazing performer, and it's like, with comedy, you can get into this very vulnerable place. And then you could be at her show laughing, and then you could be crying. And it's just beautiful. It's just such a great experience. I've learned so much from her. Yeah.
Did you play across 110th Street with her? Was that your opening song, right? I saw that.
It was, yeah. Yeah, it was so fun. We played at Town Hall in New York, and that was an incredible concert because, Sandra, it was always fun performing with her, but she had some special guests, and Liza was one of them, and that was just incredible. It was just incredible, and Rufus Wainwright. It was a spectacular show.
Were Liza and Rufus on the stage at the same time?
They weren't, actually. They weren't, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, but it's so funny because I thought both of them were so sweet and wonderful. They were really, I remember getting off stage with Liza and I was just like, Liza, you were so amazing. I was just praising her, and she's like, you got it, kid, keep going. Like, she gave me a little nod, and so Rufus Wainwright, such a sweet man, and the same with him. He was so sweet to me, and I love to see that. People who've been in this industry for so long, that they're still so sweet.
We'll be right back after this. This season of Storyophonic is sponsored by Novation, creators of the iconic Launchpad and Launch Key MIDI controllers. Novation's creative instruments allow you to translate ideas into reality, channeling your artistic energy to create new music. Novation seeks to inspire. Visit novationmusic.com. I received a directive from you, indirectly directive from you, and it had to do with the record I want to talk a lot about right now, So She Howls, your Grammy-winning, amazing album. And it was, the directive that I got was that I was supposed to listen to it all the way through, never listen to a piece of it at a time. So in the last month or so, anytime that I sat to listen to it, I've listened to it all the way through. And I can see why you said that. I totally see why you said that.
Oh, thank you.
It's not something that's subtractable. It's something that you really need to get as a cohesive whole,
Well, thank you for doing that. I mean, I know it's a big ask because we're so used to listening to music these days. We don't have that. I feel like as people, we're losing our attention span. Yeah. But thanks, because I was really just trying to create this cycle with it, so that you could really go through and process these emotions, and then come out on the other side of them, and then maybe do it again. and just kind of like, just going through it. For me, it was something when I was creating it, I was kind of, just trying to get myself to get through things. And it was helping me, and if I couldn't like emotionally get past a track or something, like I would feel it. And so that the order and was real important, and how it just flowed was really important. So yeah, thank you.
There's interesting songwritery elements in it, in that there are hooks that aren't immediately obvious hooks, but there's something that I could hear over the next 5 hours, even if I wasn't listening to it.
Yeah.
And Love, the concluding track, has that element to it.
Yeah. That piece was just, it was funny because like when I came up to that piece, it's the piece that has lyrics, right? Slowly you get lyrics, towards the end of the album, but it had full lyrics, and it's, and I called Lily on that one because, I just really needed that extra push of strength because I was still going through it. I think like when you go through something hard, you're getting stronger every day. And I knew I just needed her to soar. I was like, be my wings on this, but getting to that last album and being able to sing again. It was really documenting that, like me being able to like sing and say sing words again.
So for our listeners, I kind of work in reverse here, but a little of the backstory, the loss of your mother was a part of that experience. Cancer diagnosis and treatment and recovery was a part of your story. And those two stories kind of combined to give you that emotional depth. Correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah. And it all just kind of, when things just kind of flow. And, I've been there when things have been like really hard to finish or hard to like get your thoughts out. But this just came out because I think it was just happening. In a way, I feel like it was like almost like a documentary or just like, just really like chronicling everything that I was going through. Yeah.
Were you surprised by the critical response to it?
I was really surprised, because it really was just like step by step, like I'll sing a song and then it grew like, I'll record a few more. Oh, this is an album. And it just like kept growing like that. And I had no idea that anyone would take to it. And I just feel really grateful to everyone who listened, and, at the end of the day, I just really hope that it can help them. Yeah.
Were you surprised with the Grammy? Was that
very
a moment?
Surprised? I was surprised by it all. I didn't think this was going to happen. The start of this was while I was doing chemo, and I just did not think this was going to happen. I do feel I had to like do this album, and share it.
It's quite a conglomeration of players and people who add to the project as well. So, sometimes when people do projects all on their own, they can be a little claustrophobic, but because you have other people on there, it's much more orchestral, much more open. You have a choir, which is incredible. You have the strings, you have, as you mentioned, Lily.
Yeah.
All of that is an amazing thing. And then you use some other sounds. You found some sounds and you kind of worked with found sounds as well?
Before I get into the found sounds, I just want to say the Scorchio Quartet was fundamental in this. They were the first people I reached out to, and they really helped with the vibe. Because they've done like, the Tibetan house concerts with Laurie Anderson and Philip Glass, and they were just the right vibe. They were the first musicians I opened up to about having cancer, which was very hard for me to do professionally. That was a hard thing, and they just took it in, and they like came in and brought in their own emotions behind that, and they just supported me in this really incredible way. And then, with these found sounds and experiments, I just love to capture like things that I hear, whether it was, we had so much rain that year. So there was one point I'm like, fine, I'm going to record it. I'm like, I'm just going to record it because it's raining so unbelievably hard. And so, and I went with that, and I thought about like these things, like when I was first diagnosed with cancer, I remember like walking outside one day and experiencing this, like, I had this weird experience with nature. Like all of a sudden I could like feel, hear, I was just so much more in tune. Like, I think I was just in this state where, everything else, all the chaos in my life was out of the way. And I was just thinking about like right now, my life. And I was able to tune out like everything and just hear like the wind, hear the, and feel the, walk barefoot, and feel the dirt. And it was pretty amazing. So I started to think about these as sounds and like what I can bring in that's organic like that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Your family was a big influence on you musically, as I understand. They originally from Italy. And I think I have seen your family on June 7th, 1995. Is that correct?
On June?
Would I have seen them?
I,
Yeah, on the video. The video.
Oh, yeah.
That's the date of the video.
It is. And funny enough, it's like that date keeps coming around because it's like the day I recorded with the Scorchio. Like it's the anniversary day. It's so weird. Yeah, it's an official anniversary. My family has been so supportive. And, my mom, she passed away a while ago in a car accident. And, but I just, especially like, when I was going through cancer, like I just felt her around, I feel really lucky. I grew up with her singing these Italian songs. She came from a farm town, so she didn't really have like music lessons or, she came from a really small town and did a lot to get me to get music lessons. So, yeah, I was really lucky and she really supported it. She loved music, so.
It's great that you used that home movie video for that song. And at first I thought, is it going to break into something else? And then I realized, no, this is what I'm going to be seeing.
Yeah.
So there's the uncle with the bottle of wine and the cake, and it's very, very engaging.
Yeah. I was inspired because, when I was doing radiation, the man there at the hospital would play music, and I was like, okay. And I kept having this weird moment where all the music he was playing was like songs that would play at my mom's hair salon. Like it was just like so weird. When that happens, like, these songs come up and they just bring all these memories back. And I just remember how I felt so like it helped me get through that experience. And that kind of inspired this song, like just feeling even these people who've passed on and just being able to like hold on to those memories and them.
The first time I became aware of you as a composer, I was in San Francisco and I was in the Mission District. And I walked by a theater, and there was a film showing that I was interested in seeing. I'd heard about it. It showed, I believe, at the Outfest in Los Angeles that year, but I wasn't able to go see it. But I went and, let me go and pay my dollars, and I go to Spa Night.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's a lovely, lovely film. I have a few songs in that film, so it wasn't something that I scored per se, but I helped out with songs in it. It's a very minimal. There really isn't a score in that film, but it's a beautiful film, and he's a fantastic director, and Andrew Ahn, and so I love doing work in the LGBTQ plus community. I have a filmmaker that I work with all the time, who really, pulls it together to get these stories out there, and so I just love to be a part of that. Yeah.
It was a great movie. If folks are listening to it, I believe you can see it on Netflix now. I saw that it was available on Netflix. And it's shot in location here in Los Angeles, some of it at Century Spa at the corner of Crenshaw and Olympic.
That's
Don't
right.
ask me how I know that, but I do. And it's a great story. Josio does a wonderful job as the lead character as well. And you reconnected with Andrew Ahn on Maxine, correct?
Yes. Well, Nikki Young is a great director and friend, and we just like hit it off. He connected me with her years before for another film of hers, Were You Gay in High School, and we just hit it off from then. And so she's so talented, and it's just so great to work with them. Yeah, they're putting out great stuff.
Yeah, that happens too. Right? And once there's a sort of like people have worked with each other, I've noticed this, and especially the director-composer axis. And once there's a shorthand in communication, then it seems to be easier to do subsequent projects.
I think so. I really do. I think like it's like, I always say it's like starting a band, you know? You know, I just feel like we collaborate and, you know, and we vibe. Either we vibe or we don't. And like we vibe, like let's run with it, you know?
Yes, exactly. There's a project, I just wanted to know where this is, I don't know if it's out now or if it's coming out, called Bitterroot, I was reading about.
Yes, Bitterroot. So it's finding its home, but it just premiered at Tribeca. And that's it's just a gorgeous film by Vera Brunnersong about the Hmong community. And it follows a man, you know, in the community. And what I love about the story is, you know, it's when you're a composer, sometimes if you're, you know, of that community, you have to like embrace, you know, and we brought like a gang player in to help, and we you know, incorporate that sound. It's just beautiful. She did a really beautiful job.
You seem to have an affinity for kind of Asian projects.
I know. I love it. I love it.
Good. And did you make a trip recently to Tokyo? Is that correct?
I did. I went to Tokyo. I brought my niece out there for her Sweet 16. You know, this is like what I like to do with my nieces and nephews. And I just loved it so much. I was ready to stay. You know, I mean, I just love how everything is so, I don't know, when you get a plate of food, it's just enough. Like, it's not too much, you know, it's just perfect. Everything is just enough and simple, and I loved it. Yeah.
I'm sure you noted if you rode public transportation that each stop has its own musical signature.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I thought that was right.
That's really cool. I know. And it's, I mean, everything in that city, I just love it. It's just the energy. It just, you know, it just gave me so much energy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I was looking and doing some research on kind of the shadow music projects that you've been working on. Apotaka, is that how I say that?
Apotheke.
Can't read my writing.
It's okay. Like, you know, actually when I was at Berkeley, Valencia years ago, my master's project was on a filmmaker. It was about a filmmaker named Lotte Reiniger, which some people know, right? And I just fell in love with her work. And she created the first feature-length animation and the multi-plane camera, and kind of didn't get credited for it, but it's okay. But she has beautiful, beautiful work, and I've just been scoring her stuff, and I took some out to festivals, and then my partner and I made a film about hers, and that Apotheke I thought was her film. But it's not, because she did one live action film, and that's live action. And it's unknown who the creator of it is, actually. So, but it's beautiful. I think it's a really beautiful film. Like the shadows are gorgeous. Yeah.
It's very interesting effect. And it's so interesting to think about filmmakers, what they were able to invent.
Yeah.
Early on without, you know, CI and digital stuff, CGI and things that they have now.
Yeah.
You know, they had to really be inventors. Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, in her later life, I'm working on another project about Lotte, and in her later life, she went to Disney to do a tour and a talk. And she didn't know how to use any of the fancy stuff they had. And so at the end of her stay, they wrote her a thank you letter, and they were like, nobody here wants to use the machines, the new stuff anymore. They just want to do the shadow puppets. So, but I love those simple things like that when you just can focus on, what you're trying to say, and you don't get too technical sometimes, sometimes that gets in the way of what you're doing.
I would think in terms of a palette for a composer, having access to just the width of things that you now have, it might be a little confusing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, sometimes it's like trying not to overdo it. I think most of the times I'm like, I create something because I don't think I want to believe that it's easy. That's just where it comes. It's like, sometimes it doesn't have to be hard, Like sometimes you can just write something or a cue in a few minutes and be done with it, And it doesn't have to be this over complex thing, And I'm starting to like value that. I think with this album, because it was like, so She Howls was so ambient and spacious, and I really learned about space and not overwriting. And trying to pull back and not, just enjoy those frequencies, ride it out,
Where did you record the strings for that album?
That was in New York with James Fratzy at Hobo Sound in New Jersey. It was actually New Jersey, technically. I loved that studio. Loved James. He, I think the Scorchio records with him out there pretty often, and it's just a wonderful space, and I love like studios that are. It's a small studio, or we were at least in the small room. It was just really nice and intimate, and hoping to do that again with the next one.
Cool. Tell us about your studio. Tell us about Soundry.
My partner's an architect, so I had some help with that. But, we have a converted garage, basically, and our live room's pretty big. I think I'm trying to think of the dimensions, but I can fit I fit tonality in here, and it was 12 of them. And, we kind of did that out of budget, but it ended up working really well because I have very tall ceilings in there. And, and a lot of times I'll record quartets in here, and I just feel really, lucky to have this space. I went a little Rick Rubin on it. It's all white, as you can see. And I don't paint it every time, but the idea is just to keep the palette, kind of fresh every time. Yeah.
Well, art galleries are like that too, You think
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
And they paint them before each show, and they're usually white,
Exactly.
Do you burn sage and...
A little bit of sage, some candles, get the vibe going, some lighting,
We'll be right back after this. This season of Stereophonic is sponsored by Isotope, making innovative products that inspire and enable people to be creative using AI-powered tools for mixing, mastering, audio repair, and more. And by Odyssey, the leaders in planar magnetic technology. Odyssey delivers the best headphones money can buy. Odyssey is uncompromised audio. Who did you listen to in terms of your compositional background?
That's a great question. I mean, I really love Jerry Goldsmith. Some of his more like horror, even the Omens and Planet of the Apes, of course. And with him, what's so inspiring is I really hear his own tone within the orchestra, where, sometimes when people are using the same instrumentation, it starts to sound the same, but I feel like his voice is so unique.
You use bells a lot.
I do. I love bells. I just think I like how they sonically fit with my vocals, but I also I'm like a believer of what I have that I can make sound good. When I'm a one woman band here, and I'm like, well, the bells sound good, so I try to incorporate that. And add that layer because I think they add this really like whimsical vibe.
You've worked in the horror, kind of in the horror genre as well. I notice
Yeah.
Everybody Dies like a little. It was like spooky and a porno.
Yeah, of course.
Which
I can't forget that movie. That movie was so fun, and Everybody Dies Sometime. Both of them, they both had a comedy element to them, and but like especially porno has more of a horror vibe. So I really went off with just creating like pretty spooky tones and using there's a succubus in that film who doesn't speak. And so the only way, I use my voice to basically channel her. So it was so fun to do that. And then it's a real fun film. And with Everybody Dies Sometimes, that was with Charlotte Hamblin, the director, is out in the UK, and she's just got this really whimsical, spooky vibe to her. And so, I had a blast working on both of those. Yeah.
I'm kind of intrigued by what you've got coming up with the project, your next project, and tell us a little bit of the story behind the next project.
I will say this. I'm working on a new album. And it's been inspired by a film I saw actually a few months ago called All of Us Strangers.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes.
It was such a beautiful film.
I did see that.
Unfortunately, with my mom passing in a car accident, I have that similarity with the character in that film about the conversation I never got to have with my mom about my identity and sexuality. And so I've been thinking about that and those conversations I haven't been able to have. And that's kind of what's been brewing with it. And so, I think it's, I'm excited. I'm going to bring in a few collaborators like the Scorchio again. But I'm just in the starting process. So, but I'm looking, the film score in me is saying next year it's going to come out. So, yeah.
How do you make time for all the projects that you do? Or how does it come to you?
Well, yeah, it's so weird. It's like, I feel like with my solo work, it just, when I give myself the space to do that, it just starts to flow. Because I think it's like this journal or something that I have to express, right? And, it's pretty simple. I think I get film gigs. I don't get film gigs. And in those areas that I'm slower, I get to work on my album. And it's, of course, I do want to put something out sooner than later because I'm really enjoying the space of having this artist career now. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad you are.
Yeah.
We need you as an artist, You've got a lot to say, and obviously that the sonics are just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So that's a very cool thing. Any secret weapons you have there in your studio, for our tech nerds who might be listening?
This is just a cigar box. I don't know if you've seen these. They're pretty fun. Do you have one over there? Yeah. Okay, cool. I love it. But what I do with this is I sing through this hole, and it has this really kind of cavey sound, and then, I kind of run some stuff on it, and I just love it as a, yeah, I'm like, hey, so I ended up doing it on, I think it was on Maxine, actually. There was this spooky part, and I just started singing into it, and I'm like, that's actually really cool. Yeah. Thank you.
We'll be doing that as soon as we complete this today. We'll be trying that one out. We tend to see the world. We're all real optimistic people here in the studio. We come from a place of joy and gratitude. We're from weird little towns in the middle of nowhere, like you are too, and we're just amazed to get to do what we get to do. From our perspective, we see a lot more inclusion in this world. We've been lucky to interview. I mentioned Laura Karpman, Pinar Toprick, a lot of other Miriam Cutler. We've had a lot of women composers that have been our guests, and that's been great. And so in our world, it seems like there's a lot more of that than there used to be. And I mean, we all celebrate that, and you're certainly a part of that as well. Is that the way you see it?
Thank you. I just feel like, I'm in this time period now where I get to see like Laura Cartman like get nominated, and that's so amazing. And Hilder, and and Miriam Cutler, like, who's been doing this for so long, is so amazing at what she does. And having these women around, it's just been a real great inspiration to keep plugging away at it. And I do see it. I feel the energy. They're putting it out there, and I feel it. And I think all the other women doing it, we're feeling it. So yeah, but there's still a lot more to do, but I think we just got to keep going.
I know. There's a lot of things in our world right now we're not going to go into, but we see things a lot brighter than we saw it maybe a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
We see some really good things that get us excited.
I know.
Yeah. I think you should maybe go to Laura Cartman's closet and borrow some of those clothes for them.
Oh, yeah. She's always so styling.
The camera's always on her. The camera always gets it. The cameraman, I don't know who that is, but get her.
She's fabulous. She's got a great closet.
She stepped down out of it. Carla, you're a joy to talk to. We appreciate so much. I love your record, love the scores. And it's been a joy to me to be able to do this amount of research and get to listen to you, and I will continue to do so. And I hope that all of our listeners get to experience you as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been so fun.
Thank you for being our guest on Stereophonic. Thank you for listening to Stereophonic. Our shows are recorded, produced, and mixed by Lindsay Tomasik. Kim Strand is our production director. Our theme song is by Daddle Light Mine. Give us a review on your favorite listening platform. Subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm Dan Kimpel on Stereophonic.